Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Robert Strohmeyer from Integral Centering, where we explore pathways to wholeness and well-being for every stage of life. My guest today is Tyffany Howard, a former criminal trial attorney and a personal and spiritual growth educator. She's an award-winning independent documentary filmmaker, a tapping practitioner, and author. Tiffany educates, empowers, and inspires many people around the world, and I am grateful to have her here on this program today. Tiffany, welcome, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Today, we're going to be talking about pathways to self rediscovery and self reinvention, a topic that I know is close to your heart and your life experience, Tiffany. Whenever I think about transformation and journeys of rediscovery, I really can't help but think about the origin stories that lead us to these moments where transformation calls us, these moments where we realize that there is something to be rediscovered within
Mm.
ourselves, some missing connection, something that was lost. I think it would be a great place for us to start in this conversation to hear a bit about your journey and what called you to your own transformation.
Mm. Oh, that's a great beginning. Great question. Wow. I will be honest and say, Bob, my journey began actually at age 6. Age 6, I believe I didn't have the language uh, or the understanding, but I was aware enough to know that I could be something greater than myself, that I wasn't just this 6-year-old. Um, I was always curious, and something within me always uh, wanted to grow. I wouldn't say I didn't probably know the word expand at the time, but I was always curious about growing and curious about life. And I began to ask those questions that we ask all the time. Who am I? What is the out there? Uh, what is God? How are we here? Who created us? And I've been doing that ever since age 6. I still do that. I did that this morning, asking the questions, uh, rediscovering who I am, and shifting in the direction that those answers guide me and lead me and to shift.
Now, it's a big journey from 6 years old and having this intuitive sense of potential for growth and expansion, right?
Yes.
To being an adult trial attorney
Yes.
uh, uh, in a moment of identity crisis. What was it that for you that brought you from this very defined path, right? And you don't nobody accidentally becomes a lawyer, right? So clearly, a tremendous amount of focus, effort, education, career building brought you to this one position. And I think a lot of us can relate, right, to this feeling of really having built a life. And then something changed.
You're spot on, most definitely. I will begin by saying when I was 3 years old, my dad told me I would be an attorney. That's what you're going to do when you grow up, Tiffany. You're going to be an attorney. This happens to all of us, right? Usually other people tell us what we are supposed to do when we grow up. And I love my dad very much. So he said I was going to be an attorney. That was always at 3. that was always going to be a part of me. I loved Perry Mason. I loved, this idea, concept we call justice. So I did. I earned the degrees. I became an attorney, and I absolutely loved it until I realized that I was no longer in alignment with practicing law, that it didn't match my values about myself and the world and my idea of justice. And some people would say I had a mental breakdown. Some people would call it, in pathology, would be called uh, chronic depression, suicidal ideation. I I call it, I define it, because we get to define our own experiences, that I had a spiritual awakening. And through that experience of depression and wanting to kill myself, um, I realized that in the moment before I was about to drink the rat poison in 2015, I realized, I'm having a spiritual awakening. That's what this is. I'm having an unconscious moment. And this is a call for me to re explore who I am and to reinvent myself. I'm being called or led to become or do or be someone else. So I answered that call, which involved uh, letting go of that prescribed life, that life I had worked hard for. uh, and I let it go. I released my most of my material possessions at the time. Um, During that time, I had a white Audi. It was possessed. I started releasing everything through it being taken or through me just selling it or letting it go. My mom bought me this 1993 Dodge Dakota. I got in that truck, packed up whatever I had left, and I went on a spiritual journey, spiritual quest. So that's what happened. That's how I went from this lawyer to, at the time, I was a spiritual, became an international spiritual speaker, did workshops and retreats. Um, while I was experiencing homelessness, because that's what eventually happened for 4 years. I wrote books while I was experiencing homelessness. I was so productive. So, to answer your question, that's why the transformation and the shift.
What you describe sounds so much like what in the field of spiritual psychology is often called spiritual emergency, which is almost like a double entendre, right? In that it is the emergence of a spiritual awareness that has been latent or ignored for some period of time. And yet also that word emergency, right? It's what you just described, that profound and tragic sense of that loss of, I mean, the will to live. Suicidal ideation is not a trivial experience, but it's a profound emergency in the truest sense. Um, and you went through this cycle of letting go,
Yes,
and and you went through this period of homelessness,
yes,
and at the same time some this other paths began unfolding for you. And I think for people listening to this conversation right now, the question that must be on their minds is, how do you start being this spiritual speaker at the same time that you are going through this deep psycho-spiritual crisis of your own?
I only speak to what I know through experience. So, how do I do it? We are complicated beings. We don't even have truly the understanding or the language to explain how, as a living being, we can hold dual positions and sometimes more than that. So when I had that, it was definitely what Dr. Stanislav and Christina Groff call a spiritual emergence. I wasn't aware of that terminology until I attended Sophia years later, right? Um, but I had been uh, studying spirituality before that time. So while I was practicing law in 2013, before that, I had already had a spiritual entrepreneurial business doing, offering Reiki and tapping and speaking. I had been an international speaker since 2004, doing all of these things. It just moved into speaking on spiritual principles because I had shifted on my spiritual journey. So I was able to do all of that because I had already been in that water as an attorney. It, I've been studying spirituality since 1998, but it really didn't build up until the time came where, I don't know, some people may say your higher self, your soul, your consciousness says it's time to move on. You have to make a choice. We all get these calls, even as teenagers. We get this call to do something, to adventure, you know, throughout our lifetimes. But you have to be ready to answer I think your ego, as Bill Plotkin says, your ego has to be ripe, strong enough to pull you down into that darkness, into that descent. I was definitely strong enough, right? That's all I can say. I was designed this way.
And it's the kind of thing you discover often after an event like this, right?
Absolutely.
We can all think that we're strong, but until we're really tested and pushed in our weakest places, it can be difficult to know just how strong. And it's a remarkable story of transformation, one that is, I know, still ongoing.
Oh, yes.
And so, one of the things that I think that our listeners are going to resonate with is this ongoing sense of continually evolving, right? I know from just talking with you outside of this conversation that you're on an ongoing journey of continued discovery. And that's really the heart of our topic today. Now, not everybody's story is as dramatic
Yes.
as the moment of spiritual emergency and crisis that prompted you to substantially redefine the course of your life. But I think that everyone can relate to a sense of feeling as though that alignment with self is somehow off,
Mm,
somehow amiss,
mhm,
that something inside is not aligning to what's going on outside.
mhm.
What would you say to someone who is going through a period in their lives where that sense of something missing, something being off? is beginning to emerge?
Oh, beautiful, beautiful, thoughtful question. We get clues all the time. Unhappiness is a sign. Sadness is a sign. Feeling of emptiness, a feeling of hollowness is a sign. A feeling of desperation is a sign. We're built with the signals within us telling us that something is not in alignment. Depression is a sign something's not. And if you don't want to get up in the morning, that's a sign you're not in alignment with who you are or with your purpose. And that's what triggered me. I knew the depression, I knew I wasn't in alignment. I didn't see it as something negative. I saw it as an opportunity. I've been given this gift. It came in the form of what people call depression or spiritual emergence. It came in that form, but for me, it was really a gift pointing me, showing me, you're not in alignment here, Tiffany. But I knew that because my self-discovery is non-stop. I know myself so well to know when I'm out of alignment with who I am. If you take, I think if we take the time, I know it's challenging, it's difficult, it's considered work, the effort. But if we can take just a moment out of our day to just sit still, and this is what I do, I ask these questions. Who are you, Tiffany? What do you value in life? What's important to you? What's meaningful to you? How do you want to live your one wild and precious life? I ask myself these questions and like, who am I now? I asked this question this morning, Tiffany, who are you now? Because I felt overnight I had some transformation. So I'm curious about me. That's all it takes. Be curious about yourself.
That is a thought to sit with for a moment and really absorb, right? Just as you say it, it occurs to me that certainly in my own experience, that self curiosity is often not where it probably should be, right? Often it's self criticism, self judgment, right? Self questioning, but not self exploration, just self doubt, right? And I think we can all relate to those feelings emerging within ourselves on an ongoing basis, probably as a latent kind of default mode of being, right? So the world we live in, the way we form our relationships and our narrative of our lives is one that almost always um, causes us to question and doubt and criticize internally, and to replace it with curiosity about the self, which is also a principle that we should be applying about the world and about the people around us, right? To approach the people around us with curiosity and compassion rather than criticism and judgment and assumptions, right? Just a powerful, powerful idea that we can put into practice. How do you actually bring that self curiosity into practice in a moment where you're not exactly feeling it by default?
I think part of it is it's already within me. And part of it is it has to be developed. If we've heard this saying, to thine own self be true, or know thyself. My journey has been always about knowing myself, and that way I can navigate the world by knowing myself. I can align with my values if I know myself. So it was part of it, it was already in me. I had my ex-husband's grandmother. I asked her one time, she was in her 90s. I said, Grandma, how is it that some people uh, make it, succeed, some people don't? And she said to me, it has to be in you. And I thought about that. So I know it's in me because I've been able to move through all these challenges, these hard times, these difficult times. So I know it's in me. The curiosity is in me. We forget that little child. Children are always curious. But when we become what we call adults, we forget the inner child. The inner child's always there. So I'm constantly having communicate with little Tiffany to keep her alive. What is it that you want to do? What is it that interests you? What is it that makes you laugh and smile and imagine? So keeping that part of me alive, but also developing it, making it a habit, because we create these unhealthy habits. We can also create healthy habits. We can develop curiosity. I say sometimes, I wonder, and I use those words, I wonder what it would look like if I do this, or I wonder what it would look like to experience joy. I wonder what it would look like to be an award-winning documentary filmmaker. And the more I throw that out, like a child, right? Being playful. We have to be playful. We only have this one body experience here, and then when we're not here, we're not in the physical. That drives me. And so if we keep wondering and develop that wonder again, it's still there. It's still there. Just get in contact with it. And you'll see all the beautiful things you can create.
I think the question that emerges out of this too is that sense of, it has to be in you, right? And what I'm hearing in what you just said is it isn't necessarily something that is in some people and not in other people. But a person can feel like, and I'm sure a lot of people listening to this right now can relate to this feeling of wondering if it is in them,
Mm,
right? Wondering if maybe they know it had been, maybe it feels lost. How to reconnect to that recognition of the curiosity, the wonder, the strength, and that let's just use the word power, right? That power within
yes.
that brings forward the curiosity and the openness to growth. How would you what would you prescribe to someone looking for a way to reconnect with that?
Mm. First, I would say reflect on a time in your life when you were curious. That will start the not only the mind and the body of thought, thinking about it, going back to that time as a child, whatever age it may be, where you were curious about something, excited about something. You met someone and you felt it in the body. This person interests me. Or you had an idea about using your hands and creating something. Remember that. Wondering as a child in high school if you could get a touchdown, if you could kick a goal, a ball in a soccer goal, throw a ball in a basketball hoop. That's how you started. You start reflecting on your life when you were curious, when you were open to curiosity, when you imagined. And we all can do that. It just takes a moment.
And then what? Right? I mean, it's like you find within yourself this openness to actually learning who you are, right? To learning what's within you. And but here you are, you're at a later stage of life. I think, for most of our viewers and listeners, um, we're at a later stage. I'm at a later stage in life. Um, and it can be daunting. It can feel intimidating to ask the question, because what if you discover that something is calling you to make a radical change at a late stage in life when so much is at stake and established and so much can be risked and lost? What then?
Bob, I'm 57 years old. I'm in the second half of my life. I'll be 58 in December. And I will be honest with everyone out there. Fear is a part of our design, but we can move through fear. And I will say there's no magic pill. There, all the meditation in the world, or the yoga in the world, and the praying in the world may not get you to move. Motivating yourself comes from within you. And how I do it may not work for you, that's why each individual has to get to know what works for them, what gets them going. As for age is really a number. Louise Hay, who used to be the president founder of Hay House Publishing, she fell in love at 80. Okay. You have people our age who believe in this narrative, which we have to stop. The media has to stop it. We have to stop being complicit, buying into this narrative that when you get a certain age, it's time for you to stop. That you stop growing, you stop living, you stop loving, that it's over. That's a story that's been told. It's false. We've bought into it. As long as you have breath, energy, the will to do something, if you can move through the fear and understand that the fear, it's easy to say it's not real, but it's not real. It's only real if we tell ourselves it is. But age doesn't matter. You can do it. It's in you to do it. You're still breathing. You're still alive. You still have life force, energy. to move, to create, to imagine. The only thing stopping anyone is not something out there, it's something within. And it's most likely fear or all that negative talk. I can't do it. I'm too old. It's too late for me. No, it's never too late as long as you have breath to breathe. Breath to breathe. I can make up all sorts of things to stop me, right? You see me. I can say, oh, I'm a woman, or I'm in this black body. I could make up things, right? I grew up poor. Oh, Bob. We are phenomenal beings. We are phenomenal beings. We, we can't even contemplate our power, our greatness. We're beautiful. We're greater than a number. We're greater than a number, Bob.
And finding that greatness, the pathway is, in your words, curiosity. It starts with curiosity. I am curious what you've got going on right now. Your transformative journey is by no means complete, continually ongoing. I know you have new projects going on right now. What are you working on today?
What am I working on today? My fifth documentary film will be released this year, Feminine Archetypes Across Cultures and a Journey Through Matriarchy. Next month, I will begin production of my uh, current film, which is Dream Wisdom and Healing. I have started just over the 2 weeks my video production company to help people who want to create visual stories that connect people, nature, love, and life. And I continue my personal and spiritual development education via my YouTube channel.
And your YouTube channel is Tyffany Howard Films.
I have
Yes.
two. I have Tyffany Howard Films, and I have Tyffany Howard for my personal and spiritual growth and development uh, education.
Tiffany, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today, to share your journey, your transformation, and your wisdom with our audience. And I can't wait to have you on the program again.
Thank you so much, Bob. Much love to you and all your listeners. Know that I'm sincere when I say I love you. You are my brothers and sisters. Be kind and love yourself.
Thank you so much. And thank you all for being with us for this program. And we will be back with another next week.